Now let's see the hot rods burn up some rubber.
For 15 years, Norwalk Raceway Park has offered drag racing fans one of the most beautiful quarter miles to be found anywhere. For their part, the racers themselves have offered fans at Norwalk the kind of action not seen anywhere. How about Ed Harris's wild Pro Modified ride in 1990? Incredible as it may seem, Harris walked away. Even demonstration runs at Norwalk can be anxious. Just ask Bruce McCombs, who got more pop than he asked for when he hit the go pedal, then watched with everyone else as his jet car burned to the ground back in '89. What surprises lie in store at Norwalk in '92? Stay tuned. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. For the 15th consecutive year, Bill Bader and his crew have outdone themselves in providing the world's most user-friendly racetrack for the Loctite Snap-on Tools World Nationals, presented by ASE. 73 degrees, a remarkably low 27% humidity, but we expect rain throughout the day. How long did it take to get our first incident? Not long. Let's turn to the highlights of the Scotchgard Automotive Protectors 3M Night of Fire. Pro Modified, watch the yellow machine of Mike Stawicki. Off the launch pad, the car grabs, heads into the guardrail, shatters the signage, and sets off the Scotchgard fireworks. A broken axle on the machine. Stawicki got one run in on the weekend. He did not qualify for the show. Here's another look. Just barely missing going over the wall and into the trackside catch fence. Mike Stawicki with a very dangerous looking accident there. Here's a look from behind. Now watch as the car grabs on the left side with the front wheels in the air. No steering control for Stawicki. The trackside fence right there to keep the incident contained. And though Stawicki's day was done, did give the fans a little taste of some early fireworks. Obviously, the track shut down for an extended period of time while the PTS Professional Track Services crew went out there to look things over. As you can see, Mike Stawicki climbed out. A bad afternoon for the driver from Medina, New York. Here with the front end removed, you can see the extensive damage to the car, broken rear axle, and extensive right front corner damage as well. Once the fence was repaired, action resumed. Scotty Cannon down the track at a phenomenal 6.65 seconds, 209 miles an hour, just 2/100ths off the national ET record. In Pro Stocks, far lane, Harold Denton up against Terry Liggett. Denton, the first man to drive a Pro Stocker under 7 seconds at Darlington, South Carolina last fall. Comes through as the #1 qualifier, 7:06, 196 miles an hour, new track records. There is Don Garlitz, one of the all-time legends in drag racing. He is the crew chief for Bruce Larson, former funny car world champion in the far lane, driving Garlitz's radical new Swamp Rat 32. 5.05 seconds, 288 miles an hour, just missing Eddie the Thrill Hill's all-time IHRA speed record at 288.55. Of course, there were other diversions for the big crowd here at Norwalk, including wheel-standing trucks. And what would an evening at the IHRA races be without jet cars? We had them back again this year, and what a show they put on. Watch and listen to this. "250 miles an hour on turbofan propulsion." But the star of the show, Bob Moats and his absolutely unbelievable jet-powered semi-tractor truck. Semi-tractor nothing, that is Semi-747. With that, the Scotchgard Automotive Protectors 3M Night of Fire fireworks show was officially underway. to celebrate 4 new track and event records in 4 pro categories. We'll be back with more from the World Nationals at Norwalk. And there is a look at Todd Tutterow, number 3 in World Championship points out of Louisville, North Carolina. With his '89 Pontiac Trans Am, Tutterow has already performed the biggest upset of the weekend. In the first round, in the near lane, Billy the Kid Huff, number 1 in points. In his first full season in pro stocks, looking for his first World Championship. It won't happen. Tutterow knocks him out, giving Tutterow and number 2 man in points, Doug Kirk, a big shot at the number 1 guy. Now in the quarterfinals, Tutterow went up against Jerry Oman out of Galena, Kansas, who beat the number 6 man in points, Steve Williford, in the first round. Even at half track, at the far end, Yeoman upsets Todd Tutterow as the big names continue to fall at Norwalk. Carlton Phillips up against Harold Denton. A rematch of the final at Scribner, Nebraska in the Mid-America Nationals. Give it to Denton. The number 708, the top qualifier, keeps on trucking. Elsewhere in the round, Floyd Cheek red-lighted against number 2 in points, Doug Kirk, and Jim Revis set down an alternate who made the field, Dale Kendall. In pro-modified quarterfinals, there's Gary Grainer out of Orchard Park, New York, in his '67 Camaro, 705 cubic inches of nitro-boosted Chevy power. His opponent, Michael Martin from Pageland, South Carolina, with a radical '92 Chevy Lumina bodywork, 632 cubic inches of Pontiac power under the hood. Martin, the Spring Nationals winner at Bristol, Tennessee earlier this year, has been kind of a downer for him since. You're on board with his helmet cam. Martin takes it, 687, 200.22 miles an hour, and a great reaction time. As you can see, Martin on the right had his man at half track and drove away. A car length at the finish line. Now there is a look at Brian Gamm out of Lucasville, Ohio, a '92 Chevy Lumina, 632 cubic inch nitro-boosted Chevy under the hood. His opponent, the supercharged Chevrolet of Al Billis from Barrie, Ontario. You're on board with Billis. Takes it. There you saw the numbers. Here's another look at the launch. See Gamm in the far lane creeping a bit. Took a run at Billis, but it didn't work. Gamm just 13 thousandths of a second off of a perfect reaction time. Billis actually left at the lights by 2/10. Now there is Mr. 200 miles an hour, Bill Kuhlman from Wentzville, Missouri, and his radical '92 Chevy Camaro. With 698 inches of nitrous-boosted power. Remember, Kuhlman is the man who switches back and forth to a supercharged power plant when he thinks he needs one. His opponent, the former world champion, Tim McAmis. Kuhlman carries the wheels. They're even at half track. Now Kuhlman begins to pull away and wins it. Bill Kuhlman will advance into the semifinals. Tim McAmis, the defending World Nationals champion, is undone, and here you see it. Elsewhere in the round, Norman Estes fouled against Scotty Cannon, so Cannon will beat Billis in the semis. Bill Kuhlman will go up against Michael Martin. When we return, we'll have Top Fuel and the Floppers Alcohol Funny Car. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Loctite Snap-on Tools World Nationals. A year ago at this time, we were lamenting the scarcity of nitromethane fuel following a plant explosion in Louisiana, but now we are back to full strength, and these are the guys who work wonders with it. Top Fuel dragsters. There you see Richard Langson in a brand new car. His opponent in this quarterfinal round, Pat Dakin, the former world champion in the IHRA from Dayton, Ohio. Langston in the near lane has a new crew chief, Ron Swearingen, who worked wonders for Laurie Johns. And Langston has it to the finish. 5:23, 273 miles an hour, and a terrific reaction time. Our next pair, Wayne Bailey from Lake Orion, Michigan. A man who had aspirations of a nitro funny car career until the IHRA decided to do away with that category on a limited basis in 1992. There is his opponent. The only name you've needed to know in Top Fuel competition in the IHRA this year, Doug Herbert from Lincolnton, North Carolina. 5 final round appearances, 3 victories at the Spring, Empire, and Mid-America Nationals, and at Scribner, Nebraska, he went under 5 seconds in a lap time for the first time in 4 years, but you see his crew pointing a problem on the car for Doug Herbert. Starter Jim Blakely comes over to have a look, talks briefly to the driver. I guess they're going to hold Doug there. Yep, Blakely points to Bailey, says come to the line. Tough break for the points leader for the World Championship. Let's see what Wayne Bailey can do. 5:28, 268 miles an hour. The man who won this race back in 1990 will move on to the semis, while Doug Herbert will go home a disappointed loser for the first time this year. And whoa, Bailey off the end of the track, headed for the cornfields. Oh man, when you can deliberately spin a 300-inch wheelbase dragster, you're doing something. There's a look at David Bieneman from Royal Oak, Michigan, in a relative antique, a 1986 chassis. There's the man he'll go up against, Pontiac Jack Ostrander, coming in on a roll off for a #1 qualifying run at Scribner, Nebraska in the Mid-America Nationals. Both cars are staged. Great launch for Bieneman in the far lane, but he's got problems. Ostrander comes through to win 5:28, 268, very close to Wayne Bailey's numbers. Driver, Big Daddy, about 60 years of racing experience. Larson will now go up against Maurice DuPont from Palmdale, California. In the car that Tim LaHaye took all the way to the finals in Bristol this year. Problems for Larson. He's across the center line. He is out. 5:20 for Maurice DuPont at 274 miles an hour. What an upset. You can bet Big Daddy's going to want to take a close look at that car and see what happened. So it'll be Wayne Bailey against Jack Ostrander in one half of the brackets. The other half, call it Cinderella. Richard Langston against Maurice DuPont. Here's a look inside the full-bodied cockpit of an alcohol funny car. Larry Dobbs, #2 in the world last year from Welland, Ontario, Canada. His opponent, Jim Bailey from Mantua, Ohio, a big local favorite in a '91 Ford Probe. Dobbs, #3 in points coming in, would like to move up on #1, Mark Thomas. But problems for Dobbs in the far lane, Jim Bailey. It isn't pretty, but it'll get it done. 6:16, 229 miles an hour. Elsewhere in the round, Mark White from Rockford, Illinois, went up against Carney Freifogel, an obvious pseudonym for the 26-year veteran. Should we tell you what his real name is? Nah. White laid down a tremendous number, 591 at 217 miles an hour. You break 6 seconds in an alcohol funny car, you're doing something. Now there is Scott Weiss, #2 in points from Hanover, Virginia, who has really got his hands full this year trying to deal with this man, Mark Thomas, the defending alcohol funny car world champion. In the far lane, Thomas. In the right lane, the wise guy Pontiac Grand Prix. Thomas with problems off the launch, but he keeps his foot in it. They are side by side. Weiss, 6:1:02:28, but more importantly, he beat the man he had to. This one is worth another look. Now let's see how far Scott Weiss can go. This is Ricky Bowie from Greenwood, South Carolina against Dave Sebring from Kent, Ohio. Sebring beat the world ET record holder Bob Newberry in the first round and ran a 6:09 doing it, and he's on his way to a great run here. Sebring, 598, 234 miles an hour. Sebring and White would be a match made in heaven, but it'll have to wait. Weiss will meet Jim Bailey in the next round. Sebring will go up against Mark White. Well, the clouds have blown away at Norwalk Raceway Park. We're ready for semifinal action in Top Fuel. There you see Wayne Bailey from Lake Orion, Michigan, who took that wild ride when the chutes failed to open in his quarterfinal run. There is Pontiac Jack Ostrander, the #1 qualifier at the Mid-American Nationals in Scribner, Nebraska just a few weeks ago. Ostrander looking for his first victory since 1987. Wayne Bailey, the winner of this race in 1990, smokes the tires, but Ostrander goes up in flames. Bailey wins. And now the concern is for Ostrander across the center line, trying to get it stopped. He has lost air from the left rear slick, but he gets it stopped in good order. Total meltdown of the magnesium case around the clutch mechanism. The PTS crew on hand as Jack unbuckles and climbs out. Wow, that was a run. One more look. This is from behind Bailey's car. Raw fuel exploding from the header pipes of both cars. A remarkably clean run in the right lane for Ostrander until it all went wrong. The clutch plates bring all of that 4,500 horsepower online, and bang up. And Wayne Bailey will move on into the final round. And now we will see who he will meet in that round. Call this the Cinderella bracket. There's Richard Langson in Larry Frazier's dragster. He beat former world champion Pat Dakin and Bruce Larson in Don Garlitz's new creation in the previous rounds. His opponent, Maurice DuPont, looking for sponsorship money from world heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield and rock superstar Hammer, we are told. Driving Frank Pfeiffer's 300 cubic inch rail. Good leads, header pipe streaming fire. Down to the line they come, and it is Langson, 5:18, 277 miles an hour. This is a drag race. Good, clean runs. DuPont falls behind at about a quarter track, then mounts a top-end charge, but it is too little and too late. So, Richard Langson will meet Wayne Bailey as Bailey seeks to regain a title he last held in 1990, World Nationals Top Fuel Eliminator. Now let's check in with semifinal action in Alcohol Funny Car. Scott Weiss against Jim Bailey. This is Bailey, the local favorite from Mantua, Ohio. His 91 Ford Probe with a 525-inch Keith Black blocking the car. Scott Weiss from Hanover, Virginia. Scooter, they call him. And you can see the damage on that bodywork from the burn down at Scribner, Nebraska that Brett talked about earlier. Bailey in the far lane, Weiss in the near lane. Cool burning alcohol engines can wait as long as they want at the line. Now up come the RPMs. Both cars are staged. Good launch in the far lane for Bailey, but Weiss coming on strong and takes it. 6:08, 2:25. What a final we'll have in Alcohol Funny Cars, because in the other half of the brackets, Mark White red-lighted against 5-second Dave Sebring. Sebring and Weiss in Alcohol Funny Car Finals, Pro Modified semifinals. There is Bill Kuhlman from Wentzville, Missouri. The first man to run 200 miles an hour in a door slammer in the old top sportsman class. Kuhlman still looking for a victory in 1992. There's his opponent, Michael Martin, who won the Spring Nationals at Bristol, Tennessee earlier this year. Out of Pageland, South Carolina. Of 10 nitrous and 6 supercharged engines that started this weekend, 2 of each are in the semifinals. This is an all-nitrous boosted semi. Kuhlman in the far lane against Michael Martin. Creeping into the lights. Good launch for Martin. Kuhlman carries the wheels off the launch pad once again and loses a little ground. They're side by side now. Kuhlman smokes a little bit. Martin, 684, 201 miles an hour. Big Pontiac, 632 cubic inches, carried Martin around. Now it'll be an all-supercharged matchup. Here's Al Billis from Barrie, Ontario, Canada. A 1992 Chevy Camaro on his car against Scotty Cannon, 30-year-old restaurant owner from Lyman, South Carolina. In addition to his restaurant, Scotty also builds custom tool chests in his spare time. Don't ask me when this guy sleeps. #1 qualifier in the first 4 events of the season. Cannon has fallen on hard times recently. This is number 2 in points. Billis against number 1 Cannon. A great opportunity for Billis to move up. And he beats the number 1 man in points. 6.70 with a 203 miles an hour. A huge victory for Al Billis. And Billis had him all the way. Weather and oil downs have pushed the finals until late into the night here at Norwalk. Top Fuel is up first. There's a look at Wayne Bailey's Lake Orion, Michigan-based chassis. Of the 8 cars that made up this field, 5 different manufacturers represented in the chassis department. Saw Richard Langson, resort operator from Carson City, Nevada, Bailey's opponent. Good launch for both drivers, but problems for Bailey. Langson upsets the former champion, 519, 275 miles an hour. $20,000 to Richard Langson as he picks up his first victory. Now a look at the finals in pro stock. Doug Kirk against this man, Jim Revis from Stafford, Virginia. Revis number 6 in the World Championship. Kirk number 2, separated by just 1,400 points. That's one good day's work on the IHRA trail. A pair of old cutlasses, but Pontiac mountain motor power in Revis's car, a Chevy mill under the hood of Doug Kirk's cutlass. Good launches for both drivers. Revis slightly quicker. He has the advantage at half track and holds it to the finish. 7:13, 194 miles an hour. Revis upsets the defending Pro Stock World Champion. Now to the final in Pro Modified. There's a good look at the bright yellow All-Pro Auto Parts chassis. Michael Martin of Pageland, South Carolina at the controls. Across the way, the supercharged Chevy Camaro of Barrie, Ontario's Al Billis. Martin, number 6 in points. Billis, number 2. Billis has already set down the points leader, the man who would be champion, Scotty Cannon. Let's see now if he can go all the way. Nitrous power against a supercharged car. This is the way it should be in a Pro Modified final. Martin in the far lane, bursting something under the hood, but takes it. In an upset of sorts, Michael Martin, 6.804, 203 miles an hour. That one's worth another look. Billis right there till the very end. Martin with a great top-end charge. A great victory for Michael Martin as we move on to the final in alcohol funny cars. There is the blistered and battered machine of Scott Weiss. Scooter and his dad Joe have really been putting in the nights on that car. Now there is Dave Sebring, who comes in with a succession of runs. Listen to this: 6.09, 5.98, 5.97. Just a couple of seasons ago, Bob Newberry set the world record in alcohol funny cars, just inching under 6 seconds. The first man to do it. Sebring has now done it twice in successive passes. All eyes will be on the near lane. Sebring, the performance leader, against the emotional favorite here this weekend, Scott Weiss. The distinctive sound of alcohol funny cars. Supercharged horsepower. Red light for Scott Weiss. Sebring keeps his foot in it. Another sub 6-second run. 585. I have never seen that kind of quality in alcohol funny car racing. Big disappointment for the Wise Guy crew. Terrific performance for Dave Sebring.